Okay, so today I want to discuss something that has been systematically hidden from the American public, and I want you to understand why that silence matters. 3 American MQ-9 Reaper drones have been destroyed by Iran in the past 48 hours. 5 Americans have been injured in a retaliatory missile strike on the Ali Salem Air Base in Kuwait. And the Trump administration is covering it up completely. Not partially, not selectively, completely. This is Professor Jiang Insight, where geopolitical power shifts are decoded before the mainstream media catches up. Subscribe, hit the bell, and stay locked in, because what I am about to explain reveals something fundamental about the strategic balance in the Middle East that Washington refuses to acknowledge. Let me give you the factual sequence first, because the facts matter more than the spin. On February 28th, the war began. Since then, the Pentagon has officially recorded 14 Americans killed and 409 injured in what they call Operation Epic Fury. But here is what no one is telling you. Those numbers are almost certainly understated by a factor of 10 to 50. I want to be clear. I am not inventing this. I am applying a simple analytical rule based on how the Trump administration has systematically misrepresented casualty figures throughout this conflict. When officials want to minimize political damage, they divide by 10. When they want to justify escalation, they multiply. So if 409 people were officially injured, the realistic estimate is somewhere between 4,000 and 20,000. And now we are learning that 5 more Americans were just injured in Kuwait, and CENTCOM and the White House are actively suppressing the reporting. Let me explain what actually happened. The United States struck Bandar Abbas, a port city in the Strait of Hormuz, at approximately 1 a.m. on a specific morning this week. This was not a defensive strike. This was an escalatory strike designed to intimidate Iranian naval forces. 4.5 hours later, at 4:30 a.m., Iran responded with a Fatah 110 ballistic missile that struck the Ali Salem Air Base in Kuwait. The missile was intercepted by Kuwaiti air defenses, but the falling debris, and I want you to think carefully about that phrase, falling debris, caused casualties and damage. That is the official line. But here is what actually happened. The missile hit. The explosion injured 5 Americans. Some may have been seriously injured. And the regime immediately classified the incident and told CENTCOM to bury it. Now let me bring in the deeper strategic reality. In the past 48 hours, Iran has destroyed 3 MQ-9 Reaper drones. Each one costs approximately $30 million. That is $90 million in advanced American military hardware destroyed in 2 days. But the pattern is not new. Iran has been systematically targeting these drones over the Strait of Hormuz for weeks. The Iranians have developed radar systems and air defense capabilities sophisticated enough to lock onto and destroy the most expensive unmanned aircraft in the American arsenal. And they are doing it consistently. The video footage Iran is releasing on social media shows precision targeting. These are not lucky shots. These are coordinated air defense operations. Let me address something directly. The American strategic assumption has been that military superiority equals strategic dominance. That assumption is wrong. Here is why. Iran does not need to match American military capability in traditional terms. Iran needs only to raise the cost of American operations in the Strait of Hormuz to the point where the calculus becomes untenable. Each destroyed drone costs $30 million. If Iran destroys 2 or 3 drones per day, that is $60 to $90 million per day in losses. At that rate, America loses approximately $2 billion per month in hardware alone, not counting personnel injuries, not counting the political cost of covering up American casualties, not counting the fact that the Strait of Hormuz handles roughly 1/3 of global maritime trade, and Iran now effectively controls access to it. Okay, now I want to talk about the economic dimension, because this is where the strategy becomes truly revealing. Trump has conducted 3,800 stock trades in the first quarter of this year alone. That is a stock trade every 9 minutes during a war. His children are making enormous sums of money. Treasury Secretary Pete Hegseth is at the Shangri-La Dialogue in Singapore, bragging that America no longer cares about the rules-based international order. He literally said, "You can have all the rules you want, but if you cannot back them up with hard power, the rules are not worth the paper they are written on." That is not diplomacy. That is the language of imperial collapse. That is what a declining hegemon sounds like when it stops pretending to care about the architecture it built. Let me take you back to a historical parallel that illuminates what is happening right now. In the final decades of the British Empire, London faced a similar strategic problem in the Persian Gulf. Britain had dominated the region militarily and economically for over a century. But after the Second World War, Britain simply did not have the resources to maintain that dominance. The Suez Crisis of 1956 was the moment when the entire world understood that British power was finished. Nasser of Egypt seized the Suez Canal, and Britain, France, and Israel attempted to retake it militarily. They failed. Not because they lacked military capability, but because the political cost of maintaining imperial control had become unsustainable. Within a decade, Britain had withdrawn from the Persian Gulf entirely. The Americans stepped in. But here is the critical point. The Americans stepped in because they had resources. They had a functioning economy. They had political consensus at home. Trump is squandering all three of those advantages simultaneously. Okay, let me shift now to what Iran is actually saying about this situation. The Iranian Port Authority that manages the Strait of Hormuz released a statement in response to new American sanctions. And I want you to listen to the language carefully. They said, "You will not gain control over the Strait of Hormuz, which you failed to achieve through warfare and diplomacy by means of sanctions either." Think about what that statement reveals. Iran is not boasting. Iran is stating a fact. The United States has attempted to control the Strait of Hormuz through military force. It has failed. It has attempted through diplomacy. It has failed. Now it is attempting through economic sanctions, and Iran is confident it will fail again. Iranian parliamentarians are saying that Trump must understand that Iran, as the victor and conqueror of the field, sets the terms. Not America, not the Trump administration, Iran. Now, I want to be transparent with you about something. I am not saying that Iran is 10 feet tall. I am not saying that Iran is invulnerable. Beijing makes mistakes. Tehran makes mistakes. But I am saying that the strategic balance in the Persian Gulf has fundamentally shifted, and the Trump administration is covering up the evidence of that shift because acknowledging it would require a complete recalibration of American strategy in the region. Instead, Trump is posting about reflecting pools. He is posting about the Kennedy Center. He is posting photos of a woman he was found liable for sexually assaulting, while 5 American service members are injured in Kuwait, while $3 billion in drones are being destroyed, while Iran is consolidating control over the most critical choke point in global maritime trade. Let me ask you a question. What does it mean when the President of the United States is more focused on his personal grievances than on the fact that American military operations are failing? What does it mean when the Treasury Secretary is bragging about dismantling the international order? What does it mean when the administration is actively suppressing casualty reports? It means that the American system is no longer capable of managing the contradictions between its imperial ambitions and its actual material capacity. This is not prophecy. This is structural analysis. This is pattern recognition based on how empires actually decline. Okay, let me address the counter-argument directly. Someone will say, but America still has the largest military in the world. America still has the most advanced technology. America still has the strongest economy. And I will say yes. And none of that matters if you cannot translate military capability into strategic outcomes. The Vietnam War taught us that lesson. The Iraq War reinforced it. The Afghanistan War confirmed it. And now the Persian Gulf is teaching it again. You can have the most expensive drones in the world, but if your adversary can destroy them faster than you can replace them, and if the political cost of those losses is becoming unsustainable, then military superiority is just an expensive liability. Here is what the deeper analysis reveals. The Trump administration is not actually trying to win in the Persian Gulf. It is trying to maintain the appearance of control while extracting maximum financial benefit from the conflict. Trump is stock trading. His children are profiting. The defense contractors are profiting, the financial system is benefiting from the chaos, but the actual strategic position of the United States in the region is deteriorating rapidly, and the cover-up of American casualties is not a sign of strength, it is a sign of desperation. It is what you do when you cannot afford for the American public to understand what is actually happening. Let me dwell on this for a moment. The Pentagon says 409 Americans have been injured since February 28th. The real number is almost certainly between 4,000 and 20,000. 5 more were just injured in Kuwait. The Trump administration is suppressing that report. 3 drones worth $90 million have been destroyed in 48 hours. Iran is releasing video footage showing precision targeting. The Strait of Hormuz is effectively under Iranian control. And the American response is to post about reflecting pools and Kennedy centers and personal grievances. This is not a functioning government managing a strategic conflict. This is a regime in collapse trying to maintain appearances while the system falls apart. Okay, here is what I want you to focus on. The world is being reshaped right now. The American century is not ending in a dramatic confrontation. It is ending in a quiet, systematic loss of control over the regions that America has dominated for 70 years. Iran is not conquering the Middle East. Iran is simply filling the vacuum that American overreach has created. And the Trump administration is accelerating that process by conducting stock trades, by suppressing casualty reports, by dismantling the international order, and by replacing strategic thinking with personal narcissism. I am not predicting American collapse in the next year. I am not saying that the dollar system will collapse tomorrow. I am saying that the structural contradictions are now visible. The American military cannot sustain current operational losses. The American political system cannot sustain current casualty rates without losing public support. The American financial system cannot sustain current levels of deficit spending without currency debasement. And the Trump administration is responding to all of this by doubling down on the behavior that created the problem in the first place. This is the pattern of imperial decline. History does not repeat exactly, but it rhymes. And right now, it is rhyming very loudly. I'm Professor Jiang. Stay curious, stay skeptical, and never mistake a quiet news cycle for the absence of history being made. The Strait of Hormuz is being reshaped. American power is being tested, and the regime is covering it up. That is the story.